Smith & Wesson 500. The story of the Smith & Wesson 500 begins with a simple but audacious goal: to reclaim the title of the most powerful production handgun in the world. To achieve this, engineers had to abandon the traditional end frame and create the massive X frame, a stainless steel monster specifically designed to withstand pressures exceeding 60000 psi. This is not just a sidearm, it is a mechanical marvel that manages to package the energy of a rifle into a holster-sized weapon. When you pull the trigger, the S&W 500 unleashes a 350-grain bullet at a blistering velocity of 2075 feet per second. This generates nearly 2,800 foot-pounds of muzzle energy, which is roughly double the power of the legendary .44 Magnum. For a beginner to understand, firing this revolver feels less like a gunshot and more like catching a fast-moving baseball with your bare palm. Despite its heavy 56-ounce weight and integrated muzzle brake, the recoil remains punishingly vertical. The sheer torque can easily snap an inexperienced shooter's wrist upward if their grip is not perfectly locked. It is a fascinating study in metallurgical limits, proving that even in 2026, the boundary between a handgun and a hand cannon is defined by the strength of the X-frame. Pfeiffer Zeliska .600 Nitro Express Revolver. While most modern handguns in 2026 strive for ergonomics, the Pfeiffer Zeliska remains a defiant middle finger to the laws of comfort. Born from a custom Austrian request to chamber a revolver for elephant-stopping cartridges, this 13.23-pound Titan blurs the line between a sidearm and a crew-served weapon. The sheer mass of its steel frame is a mechanical necessity, acting as the only barrier preventing the .600 Nitro Express round from shattering the cylinder upon ignition. Operating this monster requires a deliberate single-action cocking of the hammer, a ritual that serves as a final warning for the violence to follow. When the sear breaks, a 900-grain projectile is driven by a massive powder column, generating 5,530 foot-pounds of muzzle energy. To put this scale into perspective, the energy released in this single discharge equals the simultaneous firing of 10 9mm pistols at the exact same microsecond. Surviving the shot is the primary goal, as the recoil impulse is so aggressive it demands a specialized stance to prevent the barrel from meeting the shooter's forehead. Most enthusiasts in 2026 view the Zeliska as a trophy of ballistic excess, a weapon that exists simply because humanity refused to accept a limit on handgun power. It is a bucket list experience that proves even the most advanced alloys cannot fully tame the raw fury of a 900-grain slug. .460 Weatherby Magnum. Velocity is the lethal obsession behind the .460 Weatherby Magnum, a rifle that redefined the trajectory of ballistic history through raw, unadulterated speed. At its core lies the iconic double-radius shoulder, a Venturi-style combustion chamber designed by Roy Weatherby to optimize the burn rate of a massive powder charge. This specific geometry allows the rifle to propel a 500-grain bullet at 2,600 feet per second, a benchmark of performance that remains a gold standard for heavy-hitting rifles in 2026. From a pressure management standpoint, the internal ballistics are a masterpiece of metallurgical endurance, as the brass casing must contain forces that would liquefy standard hunting loads. Bracing for a shot means preparing for 100 foot-pounds of free recoil energy, a force so concentrated it feels like the focused kick of a mule delivered through a cold steel rod. It is not just a heavy push, it is a sudden, violent transfer of energy into the shooter's skeleton that demands absolute focus to maintain any semblance of accuracy. 460 Weatherby Magnum stands as a monument to American ballistic dominance, still favored by professional guides in the world's most dangerous hunting grounds. The primary draw is the hydrostatic shock, a phenomenon capable of shutting down a central nervous system instantly through sheer hydraulic pressure. It remains the definitive choice for those who understand that in a life-or-death encounter, there is no replacement for overwhelming velocity and punishing stopping power. .700 Holland & Holland. In the refined world of bespoke firearms, the .700 Holland & Holland stands as an unrivaled monument to British craftsmanship and the raw, uncompromising physics of the Nitro Express era. Born in 1988 from a legendary collaboration after a persistent client was denied a .600 Nitro, this Titan has survived into 2026 as the absolute peak of classical dangerous game evolution. Each rifle is a hand-fitted masterpiece of steel and walnut, featuring a side-by-side double-barrel configuration that provides 2 shots of monumental stopping power with 0 mechanical delay or cycling time. This design is built for the worst-case scenario, where a single mechanical failure could mean the difference between a successful hunt and a fatal encounter with a charging predator. Chambering a massive cartridge that more closely resembles a piece of fine jewelry than a standard round of ammunition, the .700 Nitro Express is a beast of burden built for the impossible. The ballistic data is truly nightmarish. It launches a 1,000-grain lead slug at a velocity of 2,000 feet per second, creating a recoil force of 160 foot-pounds, capable of lifting a grown man off his feet. Firing the first barrel is a violent assault on the senses, but pulling the second trigger becomes a pure test of willpower after the initial blast has already rattled the shooter's brain and stressed the structural limits of the shoulder joints. While modern synthetic materials and advanced recoil pads are available in 2026, the core experience of this rifle remains anchored in tradition and extreme physical toll. It is common knowledge in the global firearms community that the price of this weapon equals a luxury home, yet the real cost is the long-term tax it levies on the human skeleton with every trigger pull. This mechanical marvel turns any hunt into a visceral battle against the laws of inertia, demanding absolute respect for a cartridge that commands the field from the moment the breech is closed. Every component, from the reinforced locking lugs to the intricate hand-engraved scroll work, is engineered to endure an internal explosion that would turn lesser rifles into scrap metal. 577 Tyrannosaur, engineered by A Square, with a grim survivalist purpose, the .577. Tyrannosaur was designed to stop nature's most dangerous predators mid-charge. Often called the T-Rex, this rifle chambers a proprietary cartridge that pushes the absolute boundaries of shoulder-fired ballistics in 2026. The magnitude of the discharge is so violent that even professional marksmen find themselves physically displaced as the rifle attempts to punch through the shooter just as aggressively as the bullet strikes the target. To manage this astronomical force, the T-Rex utilizes a triple recoil reducer system consisting of 3 internal hydraulic shock absorbers hidden within the stock. These stabilizers attempt to bleed off the peak pressure of the 172 foot-pounds of recoil energy, though their primary function is simply preventing the rifle from fracturing the shooter's collarbone. The physics involve a 750-grain monolithic solid projectile exiting the muzzle at a blistering 2,400 feet per second, generating 1,000 foot-pounds of kinetic energy. This is where modern engineering meets prehistoric power, leaving 0 margin for error in your grip or stance. In the hands of an amateur, the T-Rex is notorious for its tendency to leap out of a person's grasp during the ignition phase. The recoil impulse is so rapid that the human nervous system cannot compensate before the rifle has already completed its violent rearward travel. It remains a legendary benchmark for stopping power in 2026, serving as a visceral reminder that some calibers are simply not meant for the faint of heart. This is a mechanical insurance policy for when a hunt turns into a life-or-death confrontation in the thickest brush. 4-bore rifle. The 4-bore rifle is a breathtaking throwback to the era of black powder, when hunters relied on massive lead spheres to stop the largest beasts on Earth. To understand this weapon, one must grasp the archaic bore measurement. A 4-bore muzzle has a diameter equivalent to a lead ball weighing exactly 1/4 of a pound. This means you are essentially wielding a shoulder-fired cannon, launching a projectile so large it makes modern high-powered cartridges look like mere toys. Historically, these were the ultimate weapons for ivory hunters, and their presence in 2026 remains a testament to the raw physics of mass over velocity. The mechanical reality of the 4-bore creates a unique challenge due to the friction differences between rifled and smoothbore barrels. While a rifled barrel provides accuracy by spinning the bullet, it also significantly increases the felt recoil as the projectile resists the rifling during its journey. When the hammer falls, the shooter is subjected to a rearward force exceeding 200 foot-pounds, a level of kick that surpasses almost every modern commercial firearm in existence. The energy transfer is slow but relentless, pushing back with a sustained heavy shove that can easily dislocate a shoulder without a solid stance. The data behind this relic is as massive as its barrel. It utilizes a projectile weighing 2,000 grain, nearly 4.5 ounce of solid lead. Even at modest velocities, the sheer momentum of this 4-ounce slug is enough to punch through several feet of dense muscle and bone, ensuring the target stays down for good. Firing a 4-bore is a visceral experience that connects a modern shooter to the dangerous frontier of the 1800s. It represents a time when stopping power was achieved through displacement, proving that even after 2 centuries, the laws of inertia have not changed. Stuff and Things, ST50. The year 2026 has introduced a polarizing newcomer to the firearms world known as the Stuff and Things ST50, a weapon that strips away every luxury of modern recoil mitigation. While traditional .50 BMG rifles rely on massive heavy frames and sophisticated buffer springs to soak up energy, the ST50 embraces a radical, minimalist philosophy. By removing the standard damping systems to achieve a surprisingly light carry weight, the designers have inadvertently created one of the most violent shooting experiences in existence. This is the crossbreed of a military-grade anti-materiel round and a bare-bones civilian chassis, resulting in a recoil impulse that feels less like a push and more like a physical assault on the shooter's anatomy. The technical reality of this design is found in its brutal efficiency, chambering the iconic 12.7 x 99mm NATO cartridge. Without the mass of a 30-pound rifle to act as an anchor, the 13,000 foot-pounds of muzzle energy has nowhere to go but directly into the user's shoulder. Every time the striker hits the primer, the ST50 attempts to accelerate backward with such ferocity that it challenges the structural integrity of both the optic mounts and the person behind the glass. It is a fascinating evolution for 2026, proving that while we can make high-caliber weapons lighter, we cannot outrun the Newtonian law that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. For the enthusiast, the ST50 is the insane benchmark of the current era, a skeletonized beast that demands a death grip and a braced core. The muzzle flash alone is enough to disorient a bystander, but the true shock comes from the lack of a traditional recoil pad, leaving only a thin layer of polymer between you and a catastrophic energy transfer. It represents a shift toward extreme performance, where portability is prioritized over comfort, cementing its status as a must-see for those documenting the evolution of 21st century firepower. 950 JDJ. We conclude this escalation with the undisputed titan of the firearms world, the 950 JDJ, a weapon so extreme that it blurs the line between a rifle and a light cannon. Produced in an incredibly limited run of only 3 units by SSK Industries, this firearm has become the holy grail for those obsessed with mechanical limits. Chambering a massive 20mm Vulcan shell necked down to a .95 caliber projectile, the 950 JDJ is a testament to what happens when engineers ignore common sense in favor of raw power. To look at a 950 JDJ is to realize that you are looking at a piece of history that should not exist, a rifle that requires a custom bench rest just to be fired safely. The data behind the final boss is staggering, launching a 3,600 grain lead slug with a muzzle energy of 38600 foot-pounds. To help a beginner grasp this scale, consider that the standard .3006 hunting rifle produces only about 2,800 foot-pounds. This means a single shot from the 950 JDJ delivers the kinetic energy of nearly 14 high-powered hunting rifles firing simultaneously into the exact same point. To prevent the rifle from literally tearing the shooter's shoulder away, it features a muzzle brake weighing several pounds, designed to redirect the massive gas expansion outward in a deafening blast wave. Even with its gargantuan 100-pound weight, the recoil remains the most violent force ever managed by a shoulder-fired platform. The recoil impulse is so massive that it transcends pain and enters the realm of structural threat to the human body. Firing the 950 JDJ is the ultimate test of firearms engineering, a 20mm monster that sits at the absolute peak of the power pyramid. It remains the definitive conclusion to the quest for insane recoil, a masterpiece of SSK Industries that will likely never be surpassed in our lifetime.